The embodiment of the American dream, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, self-made billionaires whose values run as deep as their wealth. One redefined an industry, the other, the modern investor. But both put their stock in America, and by investing in business and humanity, reap the rewards of this great country's capitalist tradition. Today, that tradition is under siege, our way of life questioned. And with America at an inflection point, a future generation looks for guidance from the world's two greatest capitalists. Now they're going back to school, not to learn, but to teach, showing the next generation of business leaders that wealth is not about the money you amass, but the number of lives you enrich. Tonight, in a CNBC town hall event, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates share their secrets to keeping America great.
Center of capitalism, and this is the place where dreams really do come true. In fact, right now, look at all these people here today. We could be surrounded. We could be surrounded by the next Warren Buffett or Bill Gates. And how about you? You ready to go?
Yes, we are so excited to all be here today. You wouldn't even believe how much tickets were just being sold for out front.
Now, I know you're not telling the truth. You had to get in with your ID, right?
Yes, this is true.
All right, we are ready to go. We are ready to have this tonight. Tonight, it is all about keeping America great. No big people have done that better than Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. So, folks, let class begin. Please welcome Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. With Columbia? Bill? Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been, as you know, an extraordinary year. This is a year where the rules have been completely rewritten, where we have thrown out the rule books, and we've seen icons collapse. This is also a time when a lot of people have probably wondered about our way of life, people in this very room. That's going to be our focus in just a moment. But gentlemen, before we get to that, the two of you may seem like an odd pair. For anybody who doesn't know you too well.
We'll see more odd when you get through.
But what brings you two together tonight? Why you two, and why here with these business students at Columbia?
Well, we enjoy working together, and actually, when I left Columbia, they told me I'd probably have to come back and repeat a few classes, so here I am.
And Bill, what about you? You're ready to go with the students?
Yeah, this will be a lot of fun. Warren and I love getting the questions and talking about our optimism.
All right, well... The reason that you two are here tonight, though, is this is a very pivotal moment in history. People have a lot of questions about the economy, about our entire system of capitalism. And gentlemen, let me ask each of you, over the course of the last year, was there ever a time that you had doubts about capitalism and about our way of life?
No, there was not a time. If there had been last September when we invested a lot of money, that was when the country was looking into the abyss. And you know, the money was flowing out of money market funds, the commercial paper market had died and everything. We put $8 billion to work in just a matter of a few days then. So I never lost confidence in the system. This country works. You know, we've got 200 years of proof, and it's going to continue to work.
And Bill? What do you think, Bill?
Well, we have a complex financial system, which we've proven that we can make mistakes. But more fundamental than that is the innovation, the fact that you can create new companies, that people are willing to take risk and invest, that there's great science going on. This country still has the best universities, the best science, and we're going to tune our system of capitalism. The idea that you have a lot of short-term loans covering long-term needs, the amount of leverage that was there are definitely some lessons. But the fundamentals of the system, a marketplace-driven system where we invest in education and a great infrastructure for the long term, that's continued. And I bet there's inventions that took place even that fall, in that darkest hour. People were working on new drugs, new chips, new robots, and things that will make life better for everyone in the decades ahead.
All right. Tonight is all about the students. And why don't we start out and get right to it? Why don't you start out? You ready to go? Sure. Okay.
My question is addressed to both Mr. Gates and Mr. Buffett. I'd like to know your perspective on the claim that greed and unethical or immoral business practices were at the root cause of the financial crisis.
Well, it certainly played a part, but we've always had greed. That did not get invented in the last few years. Greed, fear in the third quarter. I mean, the American people were really panicked there for a while, and it affected it started out on Wall Street, but then it spilled over into the general economy subsequently. But we're never going to get rid of greed. We're never going to get rid of fear. What we do have is a system, as Bill said, a market system, but beyond that we have equality of opportunity, we have a rule of law. All of those things have combined to unleash human potential in this country over the last couple of hundred years to a degree that no one would have believed possible a few centuries before that. And there's nothing that's gone wrong with that system. Our economy was sputtering, and still is sputtering some, but we've got the greatest engine ever devised, and it's just beginning. So greed will continue. Don't worry about that. Oliver Stone is putting out a second film here pretty soon. It'll probably get mentioned again in this one with Gordon Gekko making a return. But that is not what drives the American system. What drives the American system is this equality of opportunity in a market system, and the knowledge that when you get out of here, you're going to enjoy the fruits of the knowledge you've gained, and it will keep working. I'd love to trade places with any of you.
Bill, you have any extra thoughts on that?
Well, the best systems are ones where you have good short-term metrics, great accounting, looking at profits, looking at risk, and a willingness to do things long-term. Investing in new research, letting people build new companies. I was a huge beneficiary of this country's unique willingness to take risk on a young person, and I got to hire people who were older. I got to sell to people who were older, and it was kind of a dream come true. And that kind of thing other countries have seen it, and they're trying to create that same dynamic. And that's good for the world. It's excellent that China and India will borrow our ideas about universities, about entrepreneurship, simplification of business. None of us want to borrow this extreme leverage that we got into, but in a sense that's kind of I don't want to say minor, but it doesn't speak to the heart of why things have worked so well.
All right, let's get to another question. How about right here? Yeah.
Hello, my name is Akosia Bajma. I am from the Northern Virginia area, and I'm a first-year student here at Columbia. And I want to thank you once again, both of you, for coming. It's an honor. My question is directed towards Mr. Gates. So, Mr. Gates, I know you're not in the finance industry, but can you tell us what you were feeling when you first heard that Lehman was filing for bankruptcy?
I don't follow investment banks, very closely. So it didn't strike me as fundamentally a terrible thing. In the technology business, the two companies I admired the most, Wang Industries and Digital Equipment, had both basically gone bankrupt. Digital actually got bought. And so the fact that there's these ups and downs, certain firms get knocked out, I didn't have any sentimentality over that particular firm. Now, this knock-on effect where other people had debts to them and those were going to be very hard to settle, and that complexity might cause things to freeze up, that I called up Warren and I said, should I be worried? And he said, a little bit.
Warren, was it a mistake for the government to allow Lehman to go under?
It may have been, But I would say that overall, that the officials in Washington did a terrific job of dealing with really what was an economic Pearl Harbor, as we talked about then. So I would say that if Merrill hadn't got bought by the B of A, Merrill would have gone very quickly, and the dominoes were really lined up, and I don't think it was fully appreciated, perhaps, what a big domino Lehman was, or how close it was to the next big dominoes. But overall, I give Paulson, I give Bernanke, I give Sheila Bair, I give Tim Geithner, I give them very high marks for the fact that they took unprecedented actions to keep it going.
Hi, my name is Brian Finn. I'm a first-year student here at Columbia, and we're at a business school right now, and it seems to me a lot of the villains in this whole credit crisis were business school graduates. To what extent do you guys think that business schools like Columbia were, in some sense, responsible for what transpired in the credit crisis?
Well, remember that capitalism has been massively successful. Standard of life, medicine, all these great things have come out of it. And business schools play a role in training people to think about value, leadership. There's wonderful skills that are taught at great schools like this. And so the fact that, yes, we've had a crisis and we've dropped back, maybe we wasted 2 or 3 years net because of the things that were done wrong, that doesn't say that business schools aren't performing a great service. The case studies of this crisis will be taught here for decades to come, and so at least we'll get that benefit out of the pain we went through. Leverage is a very dangerous thing, and perhaps Warren talked about derivatives as weapons of mass destruction. That wasn't much heated, and yet at the end of the day, what happened here was, particularly in the real estate sector, the notion of risk, that price would drop down and what that meant systemically for those instruments, it wasn't well understood, and the mass destruction followed as predicted.
Warren, can you teach ethics in a business school, or does it have to come from somewhere else?
I think the best place to learn ethics is in the home. I mean, I think most of us get our values from what we see around us before we get to business school. I think that it's important to emphasize them, but I think that if I had a choice of having great education on ethics early on in the home, or as a course in the school later on, I would choose the home. The wonderful thing about it is, in this country, is you can succeed magnificently with ethics. I mean, it's not a hindrance. I mean, it's a help sometimes, it's a neutral sometimes, but it's not a hindrance at all. And to cut corners, everybody here has a wonderful future. I mean, this is an economy you're going into that's so much better. If you look back on the 19th century, we had 7 great bank panics. I mean, if you look back at the 20th century, we had the Great Depression and world wars and flu epidemics. I mean, this country doesn't avoid problems; it just solves them. And in the next 100 years, our machine will sputter again. Maybe 15 years will be so-so years, but there'll be 85 great years. And during the 20th century, the Dow went from 66 to 11,400. So this is fertile soil that you're working in, and there's no reason to cut corners.
All right, perfect. Let's get into the question.
Hi, my name is Ksenia Gankina, and I was born in Russia, and I'm now a second-year student at Columbia Business School. My question is for Mr. Gates. What industry do you think is going to produce the next Bill Gates? Because that's the industry I want to get a job in.
Industries do have different paces of innovation, and so the IT industry, driven by the magic of software, the magic of the optic fiber, magic of the chip, which doubles in power every couple of years, it's been the industry that has not only been the most exciting, it's also changed the rules for many other industries. The idea of information being available, what the online world is like, that's incredible. I'd say there are a few other industries that will compete for being exciting in the decades ahead. The energy business, some approach will provide cheaper energy that's environmentally friendly. And there's a lot of science, a lot of business. That's a global thing. There'll be some great careers there. Medicine, we haven't solved Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or about 20 diseases of these poor countries, and yet we can be sure that we're on track to do that. And so, those three industries I think you would do great in. There's many others, but those are the ones that have the strongest appeal to me.
But find what turns you on. I mean, find what you have a passion for. If somebody had said to me when I was getting out of Columbia, that Bill's business was going to be the one that was going to be exciting, I don't think I'd have done so well. But I knew what turned me on. I had a professor, Ben Graham. I offered to go to work for him for nothing. He said, "You're overpriced." But nevertheless, I went into the business. And I will guarantee you will do well at whatever turns you on. There's no question about that. Don't let anybody else tell you what to do. You figure out when you're doing something.
To poll these students, and we asked them if there would ever be a company as transformative as Microsoft in their lifetime. You might be surprised at their response. We will tell you right after this break.
(1950), Warren Buffett begins his legendary value investing mentorship under Ben Graham at Columbia. 1965, Buffett takes control of the small textile maker that he will eventually transform into one of the most successful companies ever. 2008, just as Buffett had warned, financial weapons of mass destruction, derivatives, helped cause the worst collapse since the Great Depression. In the wake of the crisis, he calms the nation with these words.
I'm 100% enormously optimistic about the future of this country over time. I mean, there's no way you can bet against America and win.
School of Business at Columbia University. We're in the heart of New York City. And before we went to that break, we asked one of our students actually asked which industry is going to be producing the next Bill Gates. Now, as we mentioned, we got the chance to take a poll of the students in this room, and we asked them if they thought that they would ever see a company as transformative as Microsoft in their lifetimes again. And gentlemen, 8 out of 10 said yes. That's 80%. Saying, yes, they do think this will be another issue. You guys are a very enthusiastic bunch. Bill, do you share that sense of optimism?
Oh, absolutely. Capitalism is great at having thousands of things go on in parallel, and a lot of them fail, some are just mediocre, but the ones that are special can grow and stun everybody. And in all those fields I've mentioned, there's going to be several companies that kind of take your breath away.
All right, let's get to another student question.
Hi, my name is Lisa Williams. I'm from South Orange, New Jersey. I'm currently a first year at the MBA program. Glad to have you both here. My question is actually for Mr. Buffett. There's been a lot of discussion around the true drivers for the recent deal with Burlington Northern. I was wondering if you could share with us your key motivation for wanting to increase exposure to the railroad sector at this time.
Yeah, well, when I was 6, I wanted a railroad set, and my dad didn't get it. Now, if you think about it, the railroads are tied to the future prosperity of this country. You can't move a railroad to China or India or anyplace else. So we start out with the premise, and I can't think of a more sound premise, that there will be more people in this country 10, 20, 30 years from now. They'll be moving more and more goods back and forth to each other, and you have the most environmentally friendly and the most cost-efficient way of doing that on the railroads. The Burlington Northern last year moved, on average, it moved a ton of freight 470 miles on 1 gallon of diesel. That is far, far more efficient than what takes place over the highways. You have a situation where overall they use a third less fuel. They put far fewer pollutants into the atmosphere than trucks will. One train will supplant 280 trucks or so on the road. So the rails are in tune with the future, and I like the West. I like the 30-some thousand miles of roadway that Burlington has, and if this country has a poor future, the rails have a poor future, and I'm willing to bet a lot of money, at $34 billion to be specific, on the fact that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, there'll be more and more goods being moved by rail, and it'll be better for the country, and it'll be better for the shareholders of the Burlington Northern.
Okay. I see another question here.
Hi, my name is Josh Porter. I'm a first year from North Reading, Massachusetts. It's an honor to have you both here. So we just went through the worst financial crisis of hopefully all of our lifetime. And I know it keeps a lot of Americans up at night, worrying about their future. What, if anything, keeps either of you up at night?
I try to live my life so nothing does keep me up at night. I don't like to sound, like a mortician during an epidemic or anything, but last fall was really quite exciting for me. I mean, I don't wish it on anybody, but there were things being offered. There were opportunities for us to do things that didn't exist a year or two earlier. So I really don't want to be in a position where I'm leveraged or something of the sort that does keep me up at night. And I did not worry about the ultimate survival of our economic system. We were messed up. Wasn't any question about that. But the plants hadn't gone away. The cornfields hadn't gone away. The talent of the American people hadn't gone away. The innovativeness of the next Bill Gates hadn't gone away. This country was going to do fine. I knew that. We just had to get things straightened out, and we're well on the way to having that happen.
Bill, you mentioned that, You mentioned before that you called Warren and he said, yeah, we should maybe be a little worried. Did he stay up late that night worrying about it?
No. The financial system, fortunately, good leadership has a lot of self-correction built into it. I think there are a few things that could surprise us that are negative. A big terrorist event sometime in the next 20 years, that would be a big negative. And a pandemic, which we're actually having in terms of the rate of spread of a new flu, one right now. And fortunately, its actual impact is very modest, way less than any such thing. So you have to keep your eye out for a few outliers like that, and those are the two that I would point to. But overwhelmingly, the rest of the system, there is self-correction built into it. The long-term thing that I don't lose sleep over, but I worry about, is that we do have our education system, particularly the K through 12 part, not improving as much as we should. And it's an important system for opportunity. It's an important system for the economic strength of the country. And since it hasn't improved that much, that's a bit scary and needs a lot more attention.
But Becky, if you had a wonderful farm, and you knew in the next 50 years there'd be 5 droughts, but there'd be 45 good years, I mean, you would not become paralyzed thinking about the 5 drought years. You would recognize that you've got a system that works very well over time, and that's our American economic system.
Since we just had the drought year, does that make it less likely for to be another one really quickly?
No, if you'd studied statistics at Columbia, you'd recognize that.
Okay, let's get to another question right back here.
Hi, I'm Peter Lawrence, a first-year student from Columbia. And first of all, thank you both so much for coming here. Mr. Buffett, the recent run-up in the market has been historic, and it seems that many people question the sustainability of the current price level. Do you think the rally is for real?
What's going to happen tomorrow, huh? Well, let me give you an illustration. I bought my first stock in 1942. I was 11. I'd been dilly-dallying up to then, but I got serious. And what do you think the best year for the market has been since 1942? Best calendar year from 1942 to the present time? Well, there's no reason you know the answer, but the answer is 1954. And in 1954, the Dow counting dividends was up 50%. Now, if you look at 1954, we were in a recession a good bit of that time. The recession started in July of 53. Unemployment peaked in September of 54. So until November of 54, you hadn't seen an uptick in the employment figure. And the unemployment figure more than doubled during that period. It was the best year there was for the market. So it's a terrible mistake to look at what's going on in the economy today and then decide whether to buy or sell stocks based on it. You should decide whether to buy or sell stocks based on how much you're getting for your money, long-term value you're getting for your money at any given time. And next week doesn't make any difference, because next week is going to be a week further away. And the important thing is to have the right long-term outlook, evaluate the businesses you're buying, and then a terrible market or a terrible economy is your friend. And I don't care in making a purchase of the Burlington Northern. I don't care whether next week or next month or even next year there's a big revival in car loadings or that sort of thing. A period like this gives me a chance to do things, and it's silly to wait. I wrote an article. If you wait till you see the robin, spring will be over.
And by the way, if you got the chance, how would you like to have Warren Buffett or Bill Gates as your career counselor? Well, we're going to have that when we come right back.
1976. Shortly after founding the company, Bill Gates drops out of Harvard to pursue his work at Microsoft full-time. 1992. At age 36, Gates becomes the youngest person ever to top Forbes' list of richest Americans. 2000. Gates steps down as Microsoft CEO to devote more time to his foundation.
With the success of Microsoft, I've also been given the gift of great wealth. I believe that with great wealth comes great responsibility. A responsibility to give back to society and a responsibility to see that those resources are put to work in the best possible way to help those most in need.
Everybody, we have more questions for Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, and we are running through them, but let's keep them going. We've got a question right over here.
My name is Erica Braley, and I am a second-year student. My question is for Mr. Gates. What is the most important thing you do every day?
Well, my days have a lot of variety. I think reading a lot, and continuing to learn. I'm in a lot of new areas in the foundation: education, health, and I love reading a lot. So I think, arming myself with that knowledge and then sitting down with people who live the topic and brainstorming with them, that's what helps me back the right people and make sure I know what's going on. So I guess I'd say learning is what's the key thing.
What was that? All right, let's get to another question.
Mr. Buffett, Mr. Gates, thank you for being here today. My name is Justin Heyman. I'm a second-year MBA, and as I get ready to graduate, I was wondering, what's the one thing that your MBA didn't prepare you for when you got out to the real world?
Well, it prepared me very well. Not the whole degree, specific professors prepared me very well for what I wanted to go into. I knew I was interested in investing, like I say, from the time I was 6 or 7 years of age. So I was lucky that I found what turned me on early on. And I had these two marvelous professors here at Columbia that just being around, I'd read all the stuff they'd written. And so it wasn't I was acquiring lots of incremental knowledge, but I was getting inspired, and they were terrific to me. Dave Dodd treated me like a son. He'd take me out to dinner and everything. Ben Graham did the same thing for me. So it gave me confidence in myself. It just propelled me into a field I already loved with this terrific tailwind from these professors that believed in me. But let me add one point because to the MBA situation. Right now, I would pay $100,000 for 10% of the future earnings of any of you. So anybody wants to see me after this is over. And, now, if that's true, you're $1 million asset right now, right? If 10% of you is worth $100,000, you could improve the value. Many of you, and I certainly could have when I got out. just in terms of learning communication skills. You know, it's not something that's taught. I actually went to a Dale Carnegie course later on in terms of public speaking. But if you improve your value 50% by having better communication skills, that's, you know, it's another $500,000, you know, in terms of capital value. See me after the class and I'll pay you, you know, $150.
You bring up your time here, and I don't know if you can see the monitors back here, but we did take a look at your yearbook and steal your picture from 1951 here.
Uh-oh.
I think we've got a picture in the back of the monitors. There you are. Okay.
I don't think I'd pay $100,000 for 10% of that guy.
Brian, we've got another question right here.
Hi, my name is Oleg Chish. I'm a second-year MBA student here. My question is for Mr. Gates. You obviously worked very hard to get to where you are, but could you reflect on what role pure luck played in your success?
Well, I was lucky in many ways. I was lucky to be born with certain skills. I was lucky to have parents that created an environment where they shared what they were working on and let me buy as many books as I wanted to. And then I was lucky in terms of the timing. The invention of the microprocessor was something profound, and it turned out only if you were kind of young and looking at that could you appreciate what it meant. And then I'd been obsessed with writing software, and it turned out that was the key missing thing that would allow the microprocessor to have this incredible impact. So in timing, in skill set, in some of the people I was lucky enough to meet, you know, meeting Warren, talking to him, learning from him, it's unusual to have so much luck in one life, I think, but it's been a major factor in what I've been able to do.
Excellent. All right, another question right here.
Hello, my name is Yoo-Jung Kim. I'm from Deerfield, Illinois, and I'm a first-year student here at Columbia Business School. I'd like to direct my question to both Mr. Buffett and Mr. Gates. In the context of both your professional relationship and unique friendship, what do you admire most about each other?
Okay, who wants to take that one first?
It's my athletic ability admires. You may not say that. Well, I would say what I really most admire about Bill is the view he has about what he should do with the wealth he's accumulated. I mean, as he said, he was very lucky. He was born in the right country at the right time, you know, the right wiring and all of that sort of thing. But in the end, he knows he's a beneficiary of a terrific society, and not everybody gets the long straws like he and I did. So he has this view that every human life worldwide is the equivalent of every other human life, and he's backing it up not only with money, but he's backing it up with his time, and his wife Melinda's backing it up with her time, and they are really going to spend, you know, the last half of their lives or so using both money, talent, energy, imagination, all to improving the lives of 6.5 billion people around the world. And that's what I admire the most.
Bill?
Well, with Warren, there's a lot of things you could pick. You know, his integrity as an example for the world, his sense of humor. But I think I'd pick his desire to teach, his desire to take things that are complex and put them in a simple form so that people can understand and get the benefit of all his experience, all his models of how the world works. He loves to teach, and he does it meeting with students. He does it in his annual newsletter. He does it when he's talking to me on the phone. It's a real gift that I admire incredibly.
Hear, hear. All right, stay right here. We will be right back.
(1991) Buffett and Gates meet over a 4th of July holiday weekend, becoming fast friends. 2004, Buffett invites Gates to join the board of Berkshire Hathaway. 2006, Buffett pledges 10 million shares of Berkshire to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Worth about $31 billion at the time, it is the largest charitable donation in history.
I'm saying you can give it away better than I can. I'm turning it over to you, and you do a better job of giving it away.
back with the two greatest capitalists out there with Investing 101. Back to more student questions. Why don't we start right here?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is John Van Dam, and I'm a first-year student here. And this question is for Mr. Buffett. If the Burlington Northern acquisition is any indication of your long-term buy and hold forever investment philosophy, I'm wondering if the financial crisis has impacted that philosophy or your investment process in any way?
No, it hasn't changed at all. I mean, we like products like this. How's this for shameless product? This started in 1886. You know, it's gone through all of these events, and in the end, you know, there will be 1.6 billion 8-ounce servings of Coca-Cola products drunk today, and there'll be more next year and the year after. We want to be in businesses with durable competitive advantage, managements we like and trust, and do them at a price we like. And it hasn't changed at a tenth of a degree. And incidentally, we own Fruit of the Loom too, but I'm not going to do it properly.
Okay, our next question right here.
Hi, I'm Brian Diefenbacher. I'm a second-year student. Mr. Buffett, it's great to see you again. I was on the trip to Omaha last month. Thank you for hosting us. My question is, how would you recommend an individual investor who follows a Graham and Dodd philosophy to allocate their capital today?
Well, it depends whether they're going to be an active investor. Graham distinguished between the defensive and the enterprising investor. If you're going to spend a lot of time on investment, you know, I just advise looking at as many things as possible, and you will find some bargains. And when you find them, you have to act. It hasn't changed at all since I was here in 1950-51, and it won't change the rest of my life. So you start turning pages. When I got out of school, I turned every page in Moody's, 10,000 some pages twice, you know, looking for companies, and you have to find them yourself. The world isn't going to tell you about great deals. You have to find them yourself, and that takes a fair amount of time. So if you're not going to do that, if you're just going to be a passive investor, then I just advise an index fund bought consistently over a long period of time. The one thing I will tell you is that the worst investment you can have is cash. Everybody's talking about cash being king and all that sort of thing, but most of you don't look like you're overburdened with cash anyway. So, but you know, cash is going to become worth less over time, but good businesses are going to become worth more over time, and you don't want to pay too much for them, so you have to have some discipline about what you pay. But the thing to do is find a good business and stick with it.
Does that mean you think that we are through the roughest times? You'd always kept a cash hoard around too.
Well, we always keep enough cash around so I feel very comfortable and don't worry about sleeping at night. But it's not because I like cash as an investment. Cash is a bad investment over time. But you always want to have enough so that nobody else can determine your future, essentially. The financial panic is behind us. The economic spillout, which came to some extent from that financial panic, it's still with us. It will end. I don't know whether it'll end tomorrow or next week or next month. Or maybe a year, but it won't go on forever. And to sit around and try and pick the bottom, people were trying to do that last March, and you know, the bottom hadn't come in unemployment, the bottom hadn't come in business, but the bottom had come in stocks. So don't pass up something that's attractive today because you hope you're going to find something way more attractive tomorrow.
Okay, another question right here.
Mr. Buffett, Mr. Gates. My name is Antoinette Genovese. I'm a first-year executive MBA student, and I actually work at Goldman Sachs. So thank you for your investment.
Why aren't you at work?
My question to you is I'd like both of your thoughts on the development of alternative energy as for developing our economy and getting it back on track.
Bill, you touched on this earlier.
Well, there are many, many ideas, and there's enough that we can say most of them will turn out to be dead ends. You know, the solar thermal, solar electric, nuclear is going to go through somewhat of a revival and see if it can solve some of its cost challenges. As a country, we want to make sure all of those get lots of R&D and regulatory enablement, because one of them is going to give us much cheaper power without causing any problem. We don't know which one it is, and we don't have quite as much R&D going into those things as I'd like to see. We have quite a bit, but I think the government policies could drive for more. But it is one of these areas that's somewhat faddish in nature. And whenever you have a lot of energy focusing on a field, the amount of money that goes in is very large, and the overall return on capital is often quite low. The car industry in its heyday was a disaster. The airline industry, even the software industry, because people don't remember all the non-Microsofts that don't exist till today. When something's hot, you get kind of those bubbles. So energy, you're going to have to be a bit careful to make sure it's one that's really got its cost structure in line, and it's not just being pushed along by subsidies, and that there'll be scientific surprises. So a very hot area, but not necessarily a good area for investment.
All right, why don't we leave it there for now? When we come back, we will have more with Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. Columbia University, and right now we're going straight to the top of Columbia Business School. We are joined by Dean Hubbard. Glenn Hubbard, by the way, is not only the head of the business school here, he also happened to serve at the White House, where he was chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors. So this is a man who knows not only about what's happening in the economy, but also what's happening with these students. You talk to them all the time. What's the question that you'd like to pose to Mr. Gates and Mr. Buffett?
Well, thanks, Becky, and thanks to both of you for being here today. And Warren, welcome home.
Thank you.
To Columbia Business School. But Warren, one thing you said years ago that's always stuck with me is you never know who's swimming naked till the tide goes out. And that, of course, says maybe there's some value in knowing when it's going to be low tide. It also says there's value in knowing context. How do we develop, how do we encourage business leaders who understand context and connect the dots?
Well, I think they've learned a lot about that in the last year, and some never learn. At Berkshire, we have actually 70-some managers, and I think most of them are a fair amount smarter than they were 15 months ago, but they were plenty smart to go in. But I think that what I learned from a Ben Graham, who came up here every Thursday afternoon. He didn't need to do it. He donated whatever he got paid back to the school and all of that. But having sound principles takes you through everything, and the bedrock principles that really I learned from Graham and Dodd, I haven't had to do anything with them. I mean, they take me through good periods, they take me through bad periods, and in the end, I don't worry about them because I know they work.
Bill, what do you think is the most important character for a business leader to have?
Well, it's surprising that the fundamentals of business are pretty straightforward. You try to take more in an income than you spend in cost, and that's a pretty straightforward subtraction. But it's surprising in terms of projecting out into the years ahead that, are we making the right investments? Are we gaining on the competition? Are we making it a little bit harder for people to replace what we're doing? That kind of common sense, I guess you've got to develop it through experience. And I think it's neat if you're young, you can see that in a small scale and be hands-on with it, because a lot of people who start with large businesses may have a hard time with it. So, the basics are pretty straightforward. Learning how it works and doesn't work in a variety of industries by reading a lot, I think that's something that comes with time, and a business school is an intense period where you can get ahead of the game.
I send one message out every year and a half or 2 years to the managers. They get one letter from me every couple of years, and it says, run this business like it's the only business that your family can own for the next 100 years. You can't sell it, but every year, don't measure it by the earnings in that quarter of that year. Measure it by whether the moat around that business, what gives it competitive advantage over time, has widened or narrowed. And if you keep doing that for 100 years, it's going to work out very well. And then I tell them, basically, if the reason for doing something is everybody else is doing it, it's not good enough. I mean, if you have to use that as a reason, forget it. You haven't got a good reason for doing something, so never use that.
Okay, let's get to some student questions.
Mr. Buffett, Mr. Gates, it's absolutely fantastic having you here. Thanks a lot. My name is Katya Karpukhina. I'm a second-year MBA student here at Columbia. And actually, my question is really related to what you were asking. So many of us, and many people in general, aspire to become somebody like you. But actually, only few people got that height, right? So what do you think were the major qualities that you have that distinguish you from the majority?
All right, Bill, Warren, what makes you stand out from the crowd?
It's always interesting when Bill and I appear together. They don't figure they can do what Bill does, but they know they can do what I do. We did both have a passion for it. We were doing what we did because we loved it. We weren't doing it to get rich. We probably felt that if we did it well, we would get rich. But we'd have done it, you know, if somebody was slipping bread in under the door, you know, to keep us going. So I think that passion for it is enormously important. And I was lucky enough to have a couple of great teachers, particularly one great teacher. I had a great teacher about life in my father, but I had another great teacher in terms of a profession, in terms of Ben Graham. And so I was lucky enough to get the right foundation very early on. And then basically I didn't listen to anybody else. I just, I look in the mirror every morning and the mirror always agrees with me. And, you know, I go out and do what I believe I should be doing, and I'm not influenced by what other people think.
All right, we'll get to Bill's answer on this in just a moment. Again, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett right after this break. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to class. We have left that last break waiting for an answer from Bill Gates. And Bill, if you had to pick one thing that makes you stand out from everyone else, what would that be?
Well, we've talked about some of the basics, having great people around you, reading a lot, thinking long term. I also think, though, there come a few magic moments where you have to have confidence in yourself. You know, Warren, when he set off on his own, he could have gone and taken a job as an analyst somewhere, but he knew that he had the skill, that he was going to raise money and have his own partnership. When I dropped out of Harvard and said to my friends, come work for me, there was a certain kind of brash self-confidence in that. And you have a few moments like that where trusting yourself and saying, yes, this can come together. You have to seize on those because not many come along.
All right, great advice. Believe in yourselves. Guys, we're going to try and go into a cram session and get in some answers pretty rapid fire. So let's get right back here. We have a question.
My name is Nikisha Alcindor. I'm from Roseville, New York. I'm a second-year student here at the school. First, I just want to thank you guys for being great philanthropists. You guys have done a great job in the world. My question is for Mr. Buffett. You recently made a huge contribution to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. If you can talk to us a little bit about what your reasoning was and how you'd like to see those funds used.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have given it to them unless I was 100% in sync with their objective, which is to do the most good for the most people, wherever they may be, male or female, whatever their color, whatever their religion, and so on. They believe every human life is equal to every other one. I'm very good at making money. If you read what Adam Smith wrote in 1776 about specialization of labor, you know, he says if you're going to deliver a baby, don't try and learn to do it yourself. Get an obstetrician. So Bill and Melinda will be better, and my children who also have foundations will be better at doing it than I would be. And that's fine. I'll work at what I'm good at, and I'll let them do it, and they're doing it 100% in accord with my wishes.
Okay, another question right here.
Mr. Buffett and Mr. Gates, welcome to Columbia Business School. My name is Chris. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I'm a first-year MBA student. My question is, who have been some of your most important mentors, and what lessons have you learned from them?
Bill?
Well, I benefited from my dad and mom, who set a great example. My dad was a lawyer and shared what he was doing at work. I've had some business partners that we've learned together, Steve Ballmer in particular. And then I'd pick Warren as somebody I've learned an immense amount from. You know, just hearing his stories of how he dealt with tough situations, how he thought long term, how he models the world. You know, if you get a chance to spend time with people like that, it's fantastic.
All right, we will be right back. Stay right here. This is real crunch time. Let's get right to it. You got a question?
Yeah. Welcome. My name is Damian Matthews. I'm actually in the executive business school here. So thanks for coming here. My question is on Apple. Mr. Gates, if you could just comment and tell us what your thoughts are on the job Steve Jobs has done as the CEO of Apple.
Well, he's done a fantastic job. You know, Apple's in a bit of a different business where they make the hardware and software together. But when Steve was coming back to Apple, which was actually through an acquisition of Next that he ran, Apple was in very tough shape. In fact, you know, most likely it wasn't going to survive. And he brought in a team. He brought in inspiration about great products and design that's made Apple back into being an incredible force in doing good things. And it's great to have competitors like that. We write software for Apple. Microsoft does. They compete with Apple, but he, of all the leaders in the industry that I've worked with, he showed more inspiration and he saved a company.
Okay, Tag, you're it.
Hi, thank you. My name is Michael. I'm a first-year MBA student. The question's for Mr. Gates. I was wondering if you think Google at all resembles Microsoft during Microsoft's early years.
Oh, they have some of the same problems we had. Yeah, it's another fine competitor. They're hiring a lot of smart people. They've gotten into the lead position in search, which is incredibly profitable to be number one in that. They may get a little competition as time goes forward, but they're a great example of what can happen. You know, two young guys who got together, pursued an idea, and created a success that's absolutely gigantic, and we all hopefully use search engines, maybe a variety, and we benefit from that.
Right here.
Hi, I'm Josh Austin. I'm a second-year MBA student. My question's for you, Mr. Buffett. Value investors such as yourself believe that fundamental analysis, deep fundamental analysis, is critical to intelligent investing. However, you've said several times in the past that you've made very rapid capital allocation decisions, sometimes in less than 5 minutes. And I was wondering exactly which data gave you confidence in your decision.
Yeah, well, that's 50 years of preparation and 5 minutes of decision, basically.
Can you just look at the spreadsheet? Can you look at an annual report and make a decision like that?
Yeah, sometimes I can. I mean, just take Coca-Cola, for example. I mean, I sampled the product for 60 years, and then I saw a couple of key ingredients, that essentially that tipped the scale in terms of buying it back in 1988. But the good, big decisions, they don't take any time at all. If they take time, you're in trouble.
All right, we will have more with Bill Gates and Warren Buffett when we come right back. Welcome back, everybody. Gentlemen, last question today. If America was a stock, would you buy it, Bill?
Oh, you bet.
Warren?
On margin.
All right, gentlemen, we want to thank you very much for your time. You've been wonderful. Bill, Warren, we really appreciate both of them. Let's give them a big round of applause, guys. And we want to thank all of you, too. Columbia University, the business school, Dean Hubbard. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate it. It's been fantastic. That does it for us today. This is Class Dismissed. I'm Becky Quick, and if you want more on this, you can go to